Today, I want to talk about something that I think is really important but often gets overlooked in our industry. The role of what I call the mediocre developer. Now, before you click away, this isn't about celebrating mediocrity. Instead, it's about acknowledging a reality that I think affects all of us in software development. Let's start by looking at what's happening in our industry right now. If you've been programming for even just a few years, you've probably noticed how the complexity of our tools and frameworks has really exploded. Just think about it. 10 or 15 years ago, you could be a front-end developer knowing HTML, CSS, maybe some jQuery. Today, you're expected to know React or Vue or Svelte. You're expected to know TypeScript, build tools like Vite or Webpack, continuous integration pipelines, cloud deployments, containers, the list just keeps on going. And this is the power of open source, right? We have all these amazing tools at our disposal, but it's also becoming a curse. Because while it's easier than ever to start developing, it's becoming harder and harder to actually become proficient in all these different technologies. Today you can create a new app with just a few CLI commands, but once you need to actually deploy that app to production, the complexities can sort of spiral out of control. You're picking between different databases, auth providers, frameworks, deployment options, it's a lot. So this is where the concept of the mediocre developer comes in. And I want to be clear about what I mean by mediocre. I'm not talking about someone who doesn't care about their craft or doesn't want to learn new frameworks or skills. I'm talking about developers who might just not be experts in every single technology they use. And that's okay. Because even if they're not experts, they still want to contribute meaningful work every day. So these could be developers who, might not remember every API function that you have by heart, but they know how to find and use documentation. And they might not understand every detail of your current continuous integration pipeline, but they can follow established patterns to deploy their code. They also might not be proficient in every framework because, let's get real, frameworks change often. But they can adapt and learn what they need to do the task at hand. And here's the thing. I believe we need to start designing our development environments and processes with these developers in mind. Because let's be honest, at some point in our careers, we've all been that mediocre developer. Maybe you're switching jobs and working in a new tech stack. Maybe your team decided to adopt a new framework you're not familiar with. Or maybe you're just coming back to a project after a few months and feeling lost in your own code. There's a lot of reasons to not be at the top of your game. By creating environments that help these developers succeed, we are building both more resilient teams and better systems. Think about it. If your system only works when you have expert level developers who understand every part of your code, that seems like a very fragile system. But what does this look like in practice? I think it means several practical things. One thing is to have clear, up-to-date documentation and make it easy to find and search for it. For example, there are tools like Docosaurus that lets you create an easily searchable docs page for your projects. It's also important to create standardized development environments. You can use tools that let you configure the right versions of dependencies, like NVM and NPM for JavaScript, or UV for Python, or even something like Docker so that everyone is running the same version of all your dependencies. You can use automated tests in your CI environment, but tests is a double-edged sword. You don't want too many tests because slow continuous integration test suites can really bite you when it comes to productivity later. Another good thing is to maintain consistent patterns across your code base. You can use tools like Prettier to handle formatting, for example. And one thing that might maybe be a little bit controversial is that I would say to not be afraid to use comments in your code. I've seen teams that don't use comment at all and they say that their code is, quote, self-documenting. Although this sounds nice in practice, I've yet to actually see this work. Still, when you're writing comments, it's always important to document the why and not the how. And perhaps most important of all, I think it's really important to foster a culture where it's okay to not know everything, where asking questions is encouraged and where we don't fault or look down on people for messing up, because that is going to happen. And at the end of the day, what matters isn't whether you can recite the entire Redux documentation from memory or understand every line in your Webpack config. What matters is whether you can solve real problems and deliver value to the users of whatever it is you're building. If you've experienced this in your own career or you have thoughts about how we can better support developers, I'd love to hear about it in the comment. Thank you for watching, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.